you know, it is possible. The magic, Kasia, is in the how-to. For eons, we have yearned to be able to create world peace. But if we don't have a clear how-to, it's so idealistic. We can't figure out how to bring that down in the moment when I'm triggered and having negative feelings. How do I create peace? So we have to have such a clear, easy how-to for people that we can do it. And when we can do it, then we're inspired, we're no longer cynical, and we see that just rippling out from our own lives, we are creating world peace.
So I feel grateful and honored to be talking to Rita Marie Johnson, who is a founder, CEO, educator, author, speaker, and award-winning innovator. Rita Marie discovered the synergy between empathy and insight that maximizes social emotional intelligence, eliminates unnecessary suffering, and leads to life-enriching choices. This epiphany resulted in the connection practice, which works for people of all ages and from all walks of life. On the cover of her best-selling book, Completely Connected, we find a review from former Costa Rican president and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Oscar Arias, who says, "Combining empathy and insight, as Johnson has shown, is valid and proven way to improve human relations." Welcome, Rita Marie. It's lovely to
Thank
have
you.
you here. And I look forward to having an inspired, meaningful conversation with you.
Thank you, Kasia. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome. So recently, while sitting on my balcony, I listened to the jovial chirping of the birds and contemplated my life and the tools that have impacted it. And 2021, I was guided to a holistic jungle school in Costa Rica, and I met our mutual friend Karuna and discovered the connection practice that I've been learning from you, Rita Marie, and practicing since then. Rita Marie, what is the connection practice and how did it come to life?
All right. Well, the connection practice is a science-based super skill, we call it, because it transforms confusion into clarity and conflict into connection. And so, as you know, Kasia, we teach you how to access your empathy, self-empathy, and empathy for others. And then we teach how to access your insight, or what we also call your best thinking. And then we teach you how to combine those two great strengths so that you can discover a creative solution to whatever challenge you're facing in life. And we have made that process that I just described easier for people to learn by creating boards, we call them. And we have magnetic boards like this one. This is the adult board, and we use magnetic feelings words and needs words for the self-empathy step. And then for empathy for the other, the same thing. We use feelings words and needs words. And then this part is the insight step. So we found that when we made it easier for people to see the whole process on one board, that they could grasp it very quickly, learn it very easily. And we also this year created the same thing for children who are not yet reading. And so this is a children's board with pictures. So this is how we engage the children. They really see it as a game, but it helps them to take a challenge, like if they're having a conflict with another child, and be able to work it through and get to a creative, peaceful solution. So that's how the connection practice works. And you asked me, how did it come to life? Well, as I thought about that question, it really began with my desire to be an authentic peacemaker. When I was 10 years old, I received an insight about my mission in life. And basically, my heart said, you will work for peace. However, I saw people in my life that said they wanted to work for peace, but they seemed pretty angry, or there were just a variety of approaches, and none of them was a perfect fit for me, for what I wanted to be able to do, because I felt like in order to be a peacemaker, I had to learn to do it myself. And so I was on this quest to figure that out. Then in 1997, I learned about heart-brain coherence, getting the heart and the brain in sync. And I learned that from the HeartMath Institute. And after learning that, one day I was in a conversation with the teacher of a small school I'd founded here in Costa Rica. And her name was Paula. And Paula and I began to have a little tension between us because we were discussing how to grow the school and we disagreed. And then I said, Paula, we just learned this heart-brain coherence from the HeartMath Institute. Why don't we try that and see if it helps us in this conversation? So we both did the 3 steps to move into coherence, which is heart focus, and then breathing as if breathing through the heart, and then feeling appreciation for something that's easy for us. So we just sat in coherence for a couple minutes, and suddenly an idea came to me about how we could work out our disagreement. And so I opened my eyes and I said, Paula, I just have this idea. What do you think of this? She says, oh, that sounds great. That works for both of us. And so that was my first experience of using heart-brain coherence to get to an insight. However, I knew that I still really didn't know how to respond to someone who has said or done something that caused me to have negative feelings. I would just freeze up, or I would just swallow it, or I really didn't know how to respond to people who I was having a difficult time with. And so I heard about a method called nonviolent communication. And I decided to take a 10-day intensive with Dr. Marshall Rosenberg in Puerto Rico. So when I went to that intensive and began to learn what they call NVC, I was just thrilled by it, to learn how to get to self-empathy and how to get to empathy for others. However, especially at that time in my life, I had a be perfect driver here in my head that made it difficult to learn the NVC because I wanted to be perfect at it. And that was, really shooting myself in the foot, making it hard for myself to learn the NVC. And so I remembered while I was there in Puerto Rico that when I would get coherent, get the heart and brain working together, that it was always easier to learn. So while I was in Puerto Rico, I tried that. I moved into coherence, and then the words began to flow much easier. I got out of my own way in learning the NVC, and I actually shared that with quite a few people there at that intensive. So after I got home here in Costa Rica, I was lying on the sofa right here in this house, and suddenly I had an aha. Suddenly I realized that the empathy that I'd learned from Dr. Rosenberg and the coherence leading to an insight that I'd learned from HeartMath, that these two belong together. That I'd had the experience with empathy where I'd get to empathy, but then I'd sort of feel like, okay, now what? I kind of feel stuck. I'm here in the empathy, but what do we do with now? So I'd have that feeling. And I also knew that insight without empathy can be arrogant. That, I know what to do. This sort of I know kind of stance in life can be arrogant if we are not connected to our hearts, if we don't have empathy for whoever we're engaged with. So it just suddenly dawned on me that, wow, I think these two are soulmates. these two need each other. Empathy and insight go together. And that if we combine them, that it's going to be possible to meet challenges in life so much easier, so much more efficiently, if we can put that together in a way that works for people. So that is how the connection practice came alive, is that I had this aha. And, the moment I had it, I knew it was going to change my life completely. And it did. At first, that kind of terrified me, but I got over it pretty quick and started putting the method together in an understandable way and started teaching it. And we brought it into the public school system here in Costa Rica with the support of President Oscar Arias. So that's how it all began.
Thank you for sharing. So your foundation is called Razor Foundation.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, which story inspired this name?
Well, actually, I keep that story handy right here in my office. This is the poem Razor. It's an 85-page epic poem, incredible imagery, beautiful story. So it tells the story of a mysterious teacher who comes to the mountains of Costa Rica, and he silently calls all the children from the village of Kizur into one of the mountains. And there, this teacher, Razor, begins to teach the children about the wonderful strengths that they have inside, about how to connect to themselves, to each other, to all of creation, to nature as well. And so he's teaching the children, but in the village of Kizur, the parents have realized all of the children have disappeared. And of course, they're frightened. And they begin to look up and down the hills, the mountains, searching for the children. And suddenly they hear the children singing, Razor, Razor, Razor. And so they go toward the voices, hoping to find a cave or entry somehow into the mountain. But the parents are not able to enter into the same reality where the children are. Instead, their feet are held to the earth as if by magnetic change. I hope I said that so you could understand it. Chains, not change, magnetic chains. So their feet are held there, and they have a timeless moment where all of their painful memories are erased and their innocence is restored. So then finally, at the end of the day, the parents awaken and the children come out of the mountain and they begin to tell their parents what they're learning from Razor. And now the parents realize there's nothing to fear here, that their children are having an extraordinary experience. And so the parents allow the children to go back inside the mountain the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And as this is going on, the little village of Kizur is becoming a culture of peace. Now people are walking arm in arm. Now people are sitting down beneath a tree and really looking at each other and connecting with each other, talking with each other. And now all of the creativity in the village is blooming. Now the village musician is composing heavenly music. And the village painter is painting a landscape of the mountain that they now call Mount Razor. And the women are doing this beautiful embroidery, making these tapestries that are glorious. And the village youth are creating vegetable gardens that look like works of art. So all of this creativity is blooming. So this goes on for a week. But at the end of the week, Razor tells the children that he has to go on and teach other children in the world. And the children go, no, no, don't go, don't go. And he says, don't worry. If you miss me, just bend your ear down to your heart. You'll know I'm there. So Razor leaves and the children come out of the mountain one last time and tell their parents what has happened. And now all of the village engages in a dialogue about what this means for them. And one of the parents says, you know, before directing the lightning in the sky, we must first harness the storms in our own hearts. They all, yes, yes. And the sense was if they could continue living like this in harmony, in peace, in creativity, that perhaps all of Costa Rica could become a culture of peace. So this poem was written in 1947, and in early 1949, Costa Rica, out of the blue, abolished its army. And so Costa Rica remains the only country in the world with no army and no defense arrangement with a larger country. So the poem was prophetic, although it was never widely known. And so that is the inspiration that has moved me to be in Costa Rica, creating a culture of peace. Of course, now we're not only in Costa Rica, now we're a global nonprofit. And so we're working in Japan and South Korea, Canada, now Germany with you, Kasia, and Kirsten, and others there. So now this story of Razur, we're making it real in our time. That's my intention. This beautiful, idyllic story, but how do we bring it down to earth? We bring it down to earth by using these boards for one way. That's not the only way, but how do we make that story real in our time? That's what we're doing.
I really like that bridge to my next question, because my next question would be, what is your vision? What is your mission? And what is your big why that gets you up in the morning and full of energy and creativity?
All right. Well, our vision is a world where generational pain has been transformed into generational peace. Just like those parents standing on the mountainside with their feet on the earth as if by magnetic chains, they had their painful memories erased. And that's what we know we can do with the connection practice, that we can turn generational pain into generational peace. And our mission is to teach champions of youth, people like educators, counselors, and parents, anyone who works with children and youth, to teach them the connection practice so they can pass it on to children and youth. Now, that's our primary focus, is to teach champions of youth, but we teach adults of all ages, from all walks of life, as you said earlier. And we do that because we know that every adult who heals the generational pain in themselves contributes to a better world for the children. So we don't limit our focus just to champions of youth.
I'm curious, could we dive a little bit deeper into the connection practice and how it really works? Because you showed us the boards with feelings and needs, and you mentioned that we begin with a challenge. Could you walk us through the steps, maybe as if we were working with children? So someone who doesn't understand the concept yet and maybe doesn't have an experience with nonviolent communication could grasp a little bit more what it's all about.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So what comes to mind is a fifth grader named Jose here in Costa Rica many years ago. And Jose was having difficulties at school. Recently, he had failed a math exam, and he went out and pulled a little girl's hair, pulled her all the way across the playground by her hair. And so the teacher had asked him to apologize. He'd done that, he'd apologized. But the teacher knew that he was going down a path that was not going to be helpful in his life. So this teacher had already taken our connection practice training. And so she sent Jose to us. At that time, we were training the kids to be peer mediators. So Jose came to our peer mediation training. So when he first arrived, he was restless and he was with the other kids sitting on the floor in our classroom and kind of punching around with the other kids, just a little bit aggressive. And so we taught him coherence. We put all the kids into groups and we teach the heart-brain coherence with biofeedback software from the HeartMath Institute. And so he had a sensor on his ear, and on the laptop, he was able to see that when he was stressed, there was this very erratic wave. But when we taught him these 3 steps of heart focus, heart breathing, and heart feeling appreciation, he saw that he was able to create a nice, even rhythmic wave. And basically what that meant is if his head is spinning and his emotions are churning like this, that what we've just taught him is how to get that heart and brain in sync. So after teaching him that, Jose calmed down. We didn't see any more of this punching around on the other kids and being aggressive. He was calmer after learning coherence. So all of the kids were in groups with our trainers. And so at the end of the day, I went to Jose's group to see how he was doing. And so I began talking to him and just saying, Jose, I'm just wondering, have you had any difficult challenges in your life lately? And he said, well, I got in trouble in school. I failed a math exam, and then I pulled Rosie's hair, and so I'm getting in trouble at school a lot. I said, okay, well, let's talk about that. And so I began to guess Jose's feelings and his needs. Now, another way to do it would have been in our time with these boards. This was years ago, but with the boards, we could have the child put their own feelings on the board, and then we guess what their needs are, and they get those on the board. But in this case, I was just talking to Jose, and so I was guessing that he was feeling worried and upset and stressed and kind of sad, because as it turned out, he'd failed a lot of exams. As it turned out, when he gets home from school, there's no one there. His parents both work, there's no one there. And so he has nobody to help him with his homework. And when I guessed if he was feeling lonely, that's when I could see he's like really like right there with me. I'll never forget it, really. And so then I began to guess his needs. And I guessed that he needed success in school, and that he needed connection, with his teacher and with the other students. He didn't have many friends. And when I guessed whether he needed to feel like he belonged, big tears rolling down the cheek. And so that was his main need, just to belong somewhere. He didn't feel like he really belonged at home, didn't have a good support system there, didn't feel connected at school. So now he was connected to his need to belong. Then I had him guess Rosie's feelings and needs. So he guessed that she was scared and hurt, surprised when suddenly, he pulled her hair. And then he had to guess her needs. And so he guessed her need for emotional safety and some other needs, but essentially her need was physical safety. So now we had his need for belonging and her need for physical safety. And when we get the 2 main needs on the table, we call it, I mean, we literally put them on the table with the boards. So then I guided Jose into coherence to see if he could get an insight about this situation where his need was belonging and her need was physical safety. And so he had his eyes closed, and I guided him into heart focus, heart breathing, heart feeling appreciation. He did have a dog. that is what he appreciated. He had a dog at home, and that was the one thing that was making him happy and making him feel like he belonged to something. So he was feeling appreciation for his dog. And then he opens his eyes, and I said, well, did something come up? He said, well, I could ask for help instead of hurting someone.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So this is the power of the insight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then, the last step on the board is an action plan. After you get the insight, okay, so ask for help instead of hurting someone. So what's that going to mean? What's the first step there? And he said, well, maybe I could ask my teacher to buddy me up with another student who's good at math. Maybe there'd be some way I could sit down with one of the students and work together so I could do better in math. And then maybe we might become friends.
Hmm.
And so that was Jose's action plan.
That's a heartwarming story. I feel this young boy was supported by you and feeling empowered. I actually was reading your book today again, completely connected, and there's this one bit that I would like to read out loud. We human beings are notorious for reacting without thinking in ways we often regret. We may have learned to stop and count to 10 in an attempt to control our reactions. That approach was certainly better than nothing. However, coherence is superior to that old remedy because it uses the power of the heart to pull the brain out of a reactive mode. Yes, I'm thinking like I haven't met anyone yet who would tell me, listen, I had such a beautiful upbringing. My home was full of emotions and feelings, and we were talking about how we were feeling and our needs were. I haven't met anyone like that yet. I'm still waiting. So this is why I'm feeling like the connection practice, nonviolent communications, and tool like that bring us closer to our um, human nature and help us better understand ourselves are so precious, so precious, especially when we're working with children.
Yeah, so
Um,
true. And I've seen it over and over and over. Like you said, you reading my book, I share so many stories. And I tell you what, the stories I'm experiencing just in the last 6 months, new experiences I'm having of seeing the power of this to heal a whole family, to uh, heal within a large nonprofit organization, a conflict going on. I'm seeing so many ways that if we just apply what we know with the connection practice, get empathy and insight working within the human beings in those families, in those communities, in those organizations, we can do it. Which brings me to answer your other question about the why. What gets me up in the morning is my desire to reduce unnecessary suffering. Because we know that the connection practice has an immediate impact on reducing suffering. Once people learn it, they are amazed at how they can move through experiences without getting into trouble, into conflict, or if they do have negative emotions, okay, well, let's see what we got to learn from that. Let's embrace those and get to the empathy and get to an insight and feel empowered with a creative, peaceful solution. So that is really what gets me up every morning. that I feel passionate about every day. My passion never ends because I'm always in awe when I see people transform so efficiently, creatively, and peacefully. I go, every time, I never get tired of it myself. It's like, oh my gosh, look at that. So I'm always celebrating. And because of that, I am aiming to scale the connection practice to millions in my lifetime. That is what I'm headed for, and finding ways this year to move forward on that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm happy to support you with that, Rita Marie, because I'm very, very convinced that this practice, I'm just experiencing it every day. So I remember I joined your first course in March 2nd.
mhm.
And I remember saying to your co-trainer, Ellen, I wonder what happens and what changes in my life if I apply and practice every day. And I've been doing that every day since March 2nd.
Wow.
And, and sometimes I even do it twice a day because if it's easy to sit down and just in a very coherent state practice. It's more challenging to practice when we're facing challenges, right? So
Absolutely.
I
Mhm.
am I am I am committed to finding out what happens if I practice a lot. And I notice that my connections with others are getting deeper and more meaningful. It's like it's easier
Mhm.
for me to open up and share my truth,
Mhm.
and I'm not scared at all, as much as I used to be before. Even though I've been practicing nonviolent communication for many years now, I still had this notion of I am not safe here.
Mhm.
So since I started practicing the connection practice, um, what started to shift and transform for me is the feeling of being safe and to belong more than I've ever experienced before. So this is big for me, really.
Mhm. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Kasia. Yes, emotional safety is one of the great benefits of the connection practice. And we know that emotional safety is the foundation that we need in order to enrich our relationships, in order to learn, in order to evolve. That when we have that emotional safety as our foundation, that we've created it within ourselves, being safe with ourselves, and learning how to create emotional safety around us, it's like a whole new world for us, really. And I have to say, one of the things that I've relied on when I've been with some people uh, that I didn't feel safe with and that I had to work out a situation with, the board itself helps create emotional safety because, like, if I was having a conversation, let's say, with a man, and I let him get his feelings and needs on the board, I know I'm going to get my chance to be heard and to feel safe in doing it by getting my feelings and needs on there as well. So it creates emotional safety by its design. Of course, in everyday life, we're not going to have that board with us all the time. The idea is to be able to live from it, create it all around us, which we learn to do. But the board helps us to get there, especially if we're having a difficult time with someone.
What are the ways that people can learn the connection practice?
Well, one way is to come here to Costa Rica to our global headquarters. So I love to teach in person. I also teach online, but we have coaches and trainers all over the world now who teach in person and online. So the teaching isn't coming just from me. We've taught over 100,000 adults and children, and that didn't happen just through Rita Marie Johnson. That's from our fabulous coaches and trainers out there doing it. So, of course, I love it when people come here. I love teaching in person here in Costa Rica.
Mhm. So what does it look like if someone arrives? How many days does it take to learn, and what's included in the tour?
Okay. Well, it's a 8-day connection practice tour. That's one way people come. I mean, you can just come and take a course with me, but if you want the most fun way, inspiring way, is to come and take our connection practice tour. So over the 8 days, I teach the course on the second day of the tour. First day is just a fun day, just to get settled here. The second day, I teach the basic connection practice so that then we can practice it throughout the tour. And that's what we do. On a tour, there's always opportunities to share not only a little challenge that might come up, maybe the person's not comfortable speaking Spanish. How do you deal with not being able to speak in your own language? And we also share celebrations, a lot of celebrations on a tour. And we can use the connection practice to get all the juice out of those celebrations and get insights even from celebrations. So besides learning the connection practice, we go to the best places in Costa Rica because I've lived here off and on for almost 30 years. I know the best places, and those are the ones that we've included. Like we go to a hot springs hotel at the Arenal volcano. We go to Cartago, which is the spiritual center of the country. We go to La Paz Waterfall Gardens, where all these beautiful, beautiful waterfalls are, and nature of all kinds, the animals, the butterflies, hummingbirds, everything. So it's a tremendous immersion in nature, connection with nature, connection inside ourselves, connection with each other, so that by the end of the tour, we are bonded in such a beautiful way. We've formed friendships that last for the rest of our lives. And the connection practice, I actually teach 2 courses during the 8 days, one at the beginning and one more toward the end. And so for people who are interested in getting certified as coaches or trainers, these 2 courses I offer during the tour are the prerequisites to get into the coach certification course. So if you come and take a tour, the 2 courses are included, not an extra charge. They're part of the cost of the tour. And then you're ready when you go home to get online with us and get certified as a coach. So that's just another benefit. That's not for everybody, but for many people, once they learn the connection practice, they want to learn how to offer it to others. And that's what we do through coaching and through offering courses, being trainers.
Mm. I imagine this is a beautiful way of learning something new, being part of a community and immersed in the beautiful nature of Costa Rica, and learning directly from you. I couldn't imagine anything better than that, and I'm really hoping and looking forward to the tour that takes place in August. So anyone who's watching and who's available for an 8-day Costa Rica immersion with the connection practice and Rita Marie, I would be happy to provide more information and even join you on this tour.
Yes, Kasia, I'm very hopeful that we'll have a good group from Germany because we're getting things going in Germany now. And the more people that become aware of it, you can get some momentum going. So I'm hopeful that whoever's listening today will reach out to you so that we can come together in Costa Rica and build this energy and find a way to create a better world more efficiently. That's one of the things about the connection practice is instead of spending 10 years trying to work something out that's going around in your head and in your emotions, we can get aligned, get to the truth in our own inner lives through our own strength and resolve it sometimes in 10 minutes rather than 10 years. I mean, I've literally seen that. I've seen people who've been working on an issue for over 10 years resolve it and go, oh, can't believe this happened. Anyway, so that's what we love to see. We love to see people reduce their suffering and enjoy happier, more peaceful lives.
Mm, yes. More of that, please. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Rita Marie, for your commitment to making this world a better place. And um, I can't wait to see you next time in Costa Rica and be part of the group. Um, and if there is anything that you would like to share now that we're wrapping up our conversation, please do.
Well, I mentioned that I got this message when I was 10 about working for peace, and that my desire was to be an authentic peacemaker.
Mm.
And so, when people talk sometimes about world peace, there's so much cynicism.
Mm.
People go, yeah, right. Look at our world. How are we ever, ever, ever going to have world peace? And there's been jokes made about that. So I don't feel that way at all.
Mm.
I don't have any cynicism, because I know in my own quest to become an authentic peacemaker that I have transformed myself through the connection practice. I never dreamed what would happen when I had that aha on my couch here. I had no idea what it was going to mean for me personally, or for the coaches and trainers and people that they've taught out in the world. I had no clue, but now I do know. And, it is possible. The magic, Kasia, is in the how to. For eons, we have yearned to be able to create world peace. But if we don't have a clear how to, it's so idealistic. We can't figure out how to bring that down in the moment when I'm triggered and having negative feelings. How do I create peace? So we have to have such a clear, easy how to for people that we can do it. And when we can do it, then we're inspired, we're no longer cynical, and we see that just rippling out from our own lives, we are creating world peace.
Mm. Thank you so much, Rita Marie.
My pleasure, my great pleasure. Thank you for the interview, Kasia. Enjoyed it so much.